This is Advisor 3.0, a show designed to help you as a financial advisor elevate your professional practice, transform your clients' lives, and take your business to the next level. I am Okusanya. Welcome to the show.
Welcome, Matt and Mohneet. Recently set up a firm and together. Delighted to have you with us today on the Advisor 3.0 podcast.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks for the invite.
Excited.
Delighted to be here. Very excited to be here.
The pleasure is all ours. So by way of a quick intro, I just wondered if you're happy to share sort of 30 seconds of your backstory in terms of who you are and where you come from, as a famous game show once said, for those that are listening.
What game show?
Which one is that?
Do you want to go first?
No, after you go.
So I have been in the industry for about 20 years. I used to manage money for institutional clients. So think pension funds, all the big fancy ones in the world, monetary agencies. I was focusing on fixed income portfolios, aka bonds. Very, very exciting, of course. And then I moved to Vanguard and I was leading the LifeStrategy range, which is a DFA in the UK. And then I left to start and together.
Matt?
Yeah. So I joined the industry in 2004. So I was very lucky because I got to see it before the retail distribution review. So pre the ban of commission and then after. So I got that before and after exposure. So that was a really interesting experience for me. I joined Vanguard in 2010. I was there 15 years. I worked in distribution. I spent 5 years working with advisors. I spent 5 years working with wealth managers. And then I spent 5 years working with more institutional type clients. So pension funds, insurance companies, global private banks.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So talk to me about your final few days, few months last year at your respective homes.
So my story is a bit different from that. I was pregnant, heavily pregnant, in fact, about to give, I think I was like third trimester at the time when we decided that we're going to do this. It was actually really exciting to think that there was something new on the other side. It's hard to explain, but the household conversation, like we were talking about earlier, went as follows. Going to leave a really, really nice job, a decent pay packet, amazing team, which was growing at the time. So the multi-asset team that I was sitting in was growing. I just hired someone to work with me, who was amazing. And there was just all this emotional burden of, you're expanding the team, you're doing really good stuff. Vanguard's an amazing place to work. It is really hard to leave. But when we started talking about it, we were quite aligned on what kind of firm we wanted to start. And we both had the right set of experience to complement each other. Mm-hmm. And we're quite similar but different. And the more we talked about it, the more natural it felt. And then when I spoke to my husband about it, we were talking, and then I was basically at the time reading this book called World's Greatest Speeches. It's a great book. I would highly recommend anyone to have it on their bookshelf. Every time you need a bit of inspiration, go and have a read. There's some great speeches in there. Anyways, one of the speeches said, "Whose dream are you living?" And that for me was the sort of bottom line at that point. I felt like if I wanted to do something for myself, something I felt truly passionate about, it has to be now.
Okay, I'm going to come back to that, Matt.
I guess for me, similar. I mean, I had done 15 years at Vanguard and I'd been there right from the beginning, or almost right at the beginning. And it was, I guess initially what we were doing is we were really trying to change the industry, both in terms of investments and financial planning. So that was 2010. So financial planning then, it was a bit different to what it is now, but there were some amazing things happening in the States. So we had a big business in the States. We were bringing that learning into the UK. The impact we were having in the market then, you could see it, you could feel it. It was quantifiable. Fast forward 15 years, I had kind of like had my journey through Vanguard, all these different distribution channels, the IFA channel. I got to work with wealth managers, all the big brands. and then in the wholesale part of the business, which was really interesting. And that for me was always a really aspirational role to get to. And to be honest, given my background, just getting into asset management was aspirational, but getting into the wholesale institutional part of the business was a big thing for me. So I worked up to that, and they let me loose on some of the big clients and on some of the big deals. And it was really good because it was very technically demanding and you're working on some big commercial deals. But I guess to your point about whose dream are you living, there were so many things happening in my life at that time that just made me want to do something different. Age was a part of it. My dad had died a few years before, and I had gone through this really complicated, painful experience. And you start really asking yourself those types of questions. So I guess the timing for us was just coincidentally.
Yeah, universe aligned.
Yeah, because the chances of this happening were very slim. Like two people who really see the world in the same way, who see the industry and investing in the same way, willing to take the jump at the same time. Because for me, I'd been thinking about this for years and years and years, but I just never had the courage to do it. And it took a long time to get to the point where I thought, right, I'm going to jump. Because, you look down and it's quite scary. Because we did start from zero. No clients, no leads, no momentum, no introducers, no real experience of the financial planning process, although we did have experience because we had worked so closely with financial advisors. But it's, people often ask, why did you do it? And there's just not one answer. There's so many factors that go into it. There was also, I think it helped getting to a point where I had an element of financial security to do it. And again, I think that was a big factor. And I came from an environment where money was, we didn't have any. It was like we didn't have any growing up. I mean, there was one summer where my mum got a second job as a postman so we could go on holiday, and we went on holiday to Ireland. And that was a big thing because we left the country. We got the ferry over to Ireland. And so as soon as I started working, I was a big saver. That for me was that was way more important than going on holidays and expensive holidays. So whereas friends as your friends get into their professional career and you're starting to earn money, I noticed people going on holiday to the Maldives and things. Oh, that might be nice. But we never did it because I was just so obsessed with savings.
You're not going to do it now for a few years.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, I cheat for buying coffee every time I buy one.
I just that's it. But it's just a lifelong habit. But I had that sort of behavior hardwired in, and I had amazing mentors at Vanguard who were really, they would say things to me like, because they were big advocates of financial planning. Like the Neil Cowes and the Nick Blakes, they were really big advocates of financial planning done properly and investment strategy that works, simple, straightforward, low fee, discipline, that sort of thing. And you learn those things and you can combine all of those things, like your childhood experiences with money and all these. So I was really lucky to be in that industry because you learn about what works and you just apply that every year, year after year after year. So I think that was a big element as well of having a little bit of a financial buffer to be able to do it. But just years again of like observing the market and studying it from the inside and working with all of these different financial planning firms and wealth managers and private banks. Again, I think we were really lucky to do that because you start to build up a really high conviction of what an outstanding private client business in financial services should look like. Because you look at all the elements of all of these different businesses, private banks, vertically integrated consolidators, boutique independents, different approaches to client service, investment strategy, and everything else. And so I think that conviction was a big part of it as well.
Yeah.
So practically, I'm interested in, the practical preparation for this move. So walk me through the process. You've clearly piled high savings. How did you think about it? Do you think I need a year worth of salary or 2 years? So how did you think about that? And then what happens? And you just let it slip. I was heavily pregnant, So the baby had arrived by the time you
Well, I was still at Vanguard.
Right.
But I'd resigned soon after. So I was still on maternity leave.
Right.
And I just resigned on maternity leave.
Wow.
Which was always, it's hard because you obviously don't get to say goodbye properly to all the people that you know, were near and dear in a way. But equally, it does give you time to really, to your point, like mentally as well, prepare, because it's not just, I think, about preparation from a sort of, you know, like strategy on paper. It's also mental preparation. So my husband works. So for us, and I've been saving as well, I was lucky enough to start working at the age of 21. So I've had all this time, I'm 40 now, but like I've had all this time to work, save and invest, which obviously helped. But again, if you have a spouse that's working and you've got a bit of a buffer for not, I would say more than a year, for me at least. And I think it's probably the same for you. We probably thought we're not going to be earning anything for about 2 years.
Yeah.
So we built in that buffer financially in order to be able to go in, because I think the worst thing you can do is go into it financially desperate, and then you do things that isn't necessarily the right approach to grow the business from the beginning, because you start cutting corners. So even, you know, the content that we initially produced, we knew that it needed to be user-friendly, high quality. It needs to be pitched to the right clients. We need to really take our time and do this properly, because with anything, whether it's investing or starting a business, if you don't get the fundamentals right from the get-go, it does come back to bite you in the future.
Yeah.
So that was a big part.
Yeah.
Over the sort of summer last year, I guess, that we were trying to, bring out all the small things that were really important, that will make sure, all the right ingredients that will make sure that the business is a success, not in the next 2 years, but in the next 5-10 years.
I think one of the key starting points is how much does the business need?
Yeah.
So how much are we going to have in the business bank account? What does year one look like? So we did a really detailed analysis on what are we actually going to spend in the business in year one. So this is even before you think about like, what does the family P&L look like?
Yeah.
Right.
What does the business P&L look like? So how much do we have to fund the business? Where's the money going to come from? Is it us? Do we get outside people and all these conversations? We didn't do the latter. It's just us. But you have those conversations and you've got to really get into the line item of, you know, in Feb in year one, what are we going to spend? And what that looks like. And then you have to sense check it and sense check it again and sense check it again, because your starting numbers are just going to be miles off.
Yeah. But I was going to say, Matt, how do you sense check that from, you know, somebody who's listening thinking, I want to make the dive, but they might not have the anchor that you had in Mohneet into you. So how do you sense check something like that?
Yeah, I mean, you speak to other advisors.
Okay. Yeah.
You've got to go and speak to other advisors, and there's loads of people out there. The community is amazing, and people are willing to speak to you, and you can, people contact us. We can tell you. I can send you the spreadsheet.
We still update the spreadsheet.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. Maybe we can, if you can share a spreadsheet. It doesn't have to be.
Very happy to, definitely, because it's got like the network costs. It's got the cost of IT and what we think we would spend on travel and client entertainment and marketing and
internet, I think, was another line.
all of those things. But so that's key, because it's the most important thing is the flow to the business, the cash flow for year 1 and 2. So how long do we have before, you know, because your money is going down before it's going up. That's scary. Because every time you log into the app, the bank app, it's lower and lower. So you're in a plane that is going down, and you need to pull on the whatever it's called,
make it go back up.
Make it go up. So for the first X months, that's what's happening. So you need to know what that looks like, how steep that gradient is.
And I think, just to add on to the point of community, I actually think the advisor community, everyone we spoke to, was so helpful.
Amazing.
Incredibly helpful. And there were some great people who gave us such good sort of nuggets of advice on, you know, what do you do in the first 6 months? What are the sort of, you know, factors where people really struggle? But even I think some of the people from Vanguard or ex-Vanguard have been immensely helpful in sort of like pushing us, like cheering us on almost. And I think that's what you really, emotionally, that's really important when you're starting a new business, because it's quite lonely when you leave a big corporate job and you go and do this. Luckily for us, we have each other.
Yeah.
But if you're doing it on your own, you will need someone to talk to because you will need a sounding board.
Can we get just a sense of the actual time frame? Because, Untogether's been running now 10 months.
Yeah.
Where are we talking? Was that 24 months before that point of handing in the notice? Was it 12 months?
It was basically 12 months in the lead up to handing in your notice and like, I guess I really want to add there that, I mean, both our jobs were really full on at the time. And you can't take your foot off the accelerator. So you're totally committed to the day job. And then outside of work, it is just bit by bit where you have the time going out and exploring and doing the DD and then just trying to piece together the infrastructure.
Yeah.
So the big question for us is, how do we get regulated? So that I guess like the key bits that you've really, the main questions you have to ask yourself are like, what is the like, why do we want to exist? Mm-hmm. What is the proposition? Why do we think, we have a compelling proposition in the market? Who do we want to serve? Why? What are we really passionate about? Like, what do we believe? These are the questions you have to sit down and ask yourself before anything. And you go round and around, and when your answers to those, you say them with such conviction that at that point, But that for us was the starting point. And that started 12 months before. So we were on a business trip together in Ireland. And it kind of started then. So we were doing some presentations out there on financial planning, actually. Just the two of us were out there, and we started then. And I kind of like brought the idea up. And it was really like, why? And then you move to the how. But you have to start with the why, which is, why are we doing this? Like, why are we passionate? Why are we? Like, what do we believe in? That's going to be our North Star. We don't budge from that. And then you go into the how, which is the practicality. So how are we going to get regulated? So we looked at various different options. We spoke to an advisor who had been through the process of going directly regulated with the FCA. And he urged us not to do that. He said, look, it's really difficult. And I've been an advisor for my entire career. 15, 20 years. I worked in various advice practices. I've set up my own. It was difficult. So I don't want to talk anyone out of this, by the way. But so if anyone's listening,
Don't do it.
who's thinking of this, I'm just thinking like, rein it back. But he said it was difficult and it was time consuming. It was expensive. And also they can say no and they don't tell you why. And then you have to just go, it's like snakes and ladders. You just go right back to the beginning. So we started looking at networks, and the networks, for us, so in terms of practicalities, a really good way of getting regulated. So we spoke to lots of different networks. So that 12 months, it was a lot of why. Then the how was probably the second half of that, the next 6 months of then talking to the networks, really understanding how they work. Just really understanding how we would fit in and how they would let us operate within their wider business. So for us, it was really important because, yes, we hadn't been advisors before or run an advice business before, but had been in the industry for a very long time. And like I say, had quite strong views and beliefs on what we wanted to do and how we wanted to do it. So that autonomy was like, we needed support, but at the same time, we wanted autonomy. So we could talk a bit more about New Leaf and how, we decided on those guys if you want. But in terms of the time frame, that was it, sort of 12 months. And then there was a bit of exams in there.
Yeah, there were some exams over this. Yeah. But then there was also, I just wanted to add on the client part as well, because we obviously started with 0 clients, essentially blank sheet of paper, as you mentioned earlier. But when we were coming back from Ireland, I remember the taxi ride back from the airport and a piece of paper. And basically we were drawing out how we're going to approach the client, the business development side of things. I remember you drew, was it concentric?
Concentric circles, always concentric circle.
And we were basically talking about who do we know? Who do they know? Who can they introduce us to?
Okay.
So that was already sort of in the back of our minds and I think that just gave us confidence that we're lucky in the sense that we've been in the industry for a long time, which means that you do sort of develop a network of people who can introduce you to the people who could be potential clients. And, they could be supporters or introducers, whoever they end up being. But the point is that when we did that exercise, that gave us some level of confidence that we can go into this. It will take obviously time and effort, but we're well positioned to be able to bring clients in.
People often forget the power of the community around them or their network of people over there.
Absolutely.
Their careers. Can I ask a really silly question? Did you almost put a date in the diary and that date can't move? Because, as you said, you both came from very powerful, very busy day jobs. There were things you had to get done in order to be able to resign.
Yeah.
Because I'm just thinking, we all do things, right? And we push the date out and we push it out. Did you have to sort of
Are you thinking of the day you will resign?
Kate's making notes.
What's that?
Future guest.
Did you kind of think, right, it's got to be that day and that can't move?
Yeah.
Then means you work backwards.
we did. We did have that,
It was 1st of October last year.
1st of October 26.
Yeah.
So 25 was the date.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And because we were but that Dublin trip was, when was it? It was September the year before. So pretty much 12 months before.
Interesting.
And then
Ireland's got a lot to answer for.
I know. So September, October, November, December, it was just a lot of back and forth of are we, shall we, should we? So we went away at Christmas and just said, look, let's come back in Jan and just see how we both feel. Like, are we going to do this or not? No pressure either way. Both came back in Jan and we both said we're 100% going to do this. So that was the moment of, I guess you're at the point of like psychological no return.
Right.
At that point. Because once your head is there, you're not, you're just in another place mentally. So that Jan really then was, all right, October the 1st.
I think that's what really solidified it, because we knew we were going to do it. And then it was just like, we need to get going, because I think in business, like urgency is everything. You just need to guess. If you've got an idea, you want to do it, just.
Yeah. But I think that Chris, so that for me, I don't know what it's like for you, but making my mind up was the hardest part. And I'll never forget.
And once that was done.
Christmas, I was basically just spent December lying in bed staring at the ceiling till 4 a.m, just thinking, am I going to do this? Why am I going to do this? But I found that the hardest bit in terms of like managing stress, I think, which was just the decision-making process.
Yeah.
And then once I decided, it
became easier.
Forward charge.
Yeah.
So that,
I'm interested in the why. Why do you think, or why did you think Hand Together as a business has to exist? What's missing in this marketplace from your point of view that you wanted to bring to life?
Yeah.
So I'll go. I've got a little bit of backstory as well.
All right, you keep quiet. The lady's talking.
So I grew up in India for the first sort of 11 years of my life. My parents were always amazing at sort of making us feel like we were on top of the world. But sort of in the last few years that we were there, we went through some financial difficulties. And that just, for me, I just remember as a kid, wanting to, obviously at that age, you want to do things, you want to buy things, you want to have friends over and all of these things. And it just sort of really, I just remember this sort of pivotal moment for me where I sort of realized how important money was, even though you don't fully understand the concept at that time, but you realize that it dictates so many decisions. And that's all I knew at that point. But then as time went on and when I started working, I was so sort of regimented about putting in direct debits into my, into my ISAs and making sure I max out my pensions. And that financial security angle just became so close to my heart. And when we started talking about Hand Together, it just all sort of felt like it was coming full circle. There's great financial advisors out there. But I do think when we started putting together the idea of Hand Together, it was driven by a couple of different things, and I'm sure Matt will probably add more to it. But one was really sort of being honest about what you're doing and the sort of values that we bring individually and together. Kindness, we really do genuinely care about the clients that we work with and their financial well-being. But obviously, again, coming from experience, we also know there's so much stuff out there that frankly doesn't really work. And you guys will know this, right? When you start a timeline, and there's stuff that does work. And often many clients are just clouded and thrown jargon at. And realistically, working at a place like Vanguard over the years, you do all the research, you read all the economic papers, the performance, the data behind it, and you understand that financial planning is really powerful, and the investment bucket within that doesn't necessarily need to be overly complex. It needs to do a certain job, of course, but many propositions out there are overly complex when they're put forward in a financial plan. And that's one thing that personally for me, I felt like there was room for improvement, and that we could definitely do a better job and present a plan to clients which, you know, they understand, it makes sense, and it's going to give them what they need over the long term. All the while really sort of making sure that, you know, we do right by them. There's a bit of emotional, a bit sort of, so there is like, yeah, a strong value side to it more than anything else for me.
I guess similar for me. I think I started asking myself questions like, what do I want to do? What do I really want to do? And what really matters to me every day? And I had seen a couple of my mentors retire in Vanguard. And I really started to think about my career, and I was thinking to myself, I don't really ever want to stop working. I love the purpose and coming to work and the commercial side of it and being busy and just the adventure of work. I loved it. And I just thought, I really want to do something that I really enjoy that I can do forever. And I'd had the benefit of working with all these different businesses, boutique advice businesses, the big wealth managers, the private banks, and all of these different businesses over quite a long period of time. And some of the most entrepreneurial, inspirational people I'd met were financial planners. And I just knew the work that I really want to do is financial planning, because I want to work with people and their families. And at that point, I was working more with institutions. And like I say, that was great. It was good fun. It was great to be, I loved asset management. I was passionate about that, and I was passionate about the work that we were doing, but it did lack that emotional element. And when you work with families and they really open up about everything, the family, their life, where they're trying to get to, and you almost become like a de facto member of the family, and they invite you in, and your role there is to help them get to where they want to be. It's really special. It's really rewarding. You naturally, like Mohneet said, you really care about the industry and what we're doing. And of course you care about the clients. And what happens is you just grow very fond of them. And it's very hard not to, and you get emotionally involved. And I knew that because I had really close friends who were financial advisors. And for me, I just thought it wasn't that there was a gap in the market or that, we're trying to do something totally different to other people. I just thought, how do I want to spend my time? What is my dream? Who do I want to be around on a day-to-day basis? Because for me, it was all about people. That's what it boiled down to when I started to think about like what really matters to me. And what I realized was it was all about people and who I spend my time with. And so for me, that was the number one most important thing, which is who do I want to spend my time with? People who are really interesting and exciting and inspiring, like Mohneet, like the clients that we work with, which is why we decided to work with entrepreneurs, or one of the reasons. And that for me was the answer to how do I work forever? Because that kind of was one of the questions I was asking myself. And for some reason, that was really bugging me at the time, which was, it wasn't a money thing or how do I get more time to go riding on my bike? It was, how do I create a life where I really enjoy my work and can do it forever? And I looked at financial planning and wealth management, private banking, all this stuff. I thought, financial planners are, the job they do in the overall market is incredible because, again, for me, what was really important was value add. Like how can we, the people that we work with is really important. How can we deliver real value to them. And I just believe really passionately that financial planning can do that. So we decided to do it. So it wasn't about filling a gap, but now, the plan always was, how do we become one of the best or financial advice businesses?
You both answer the question with very founder-led language, if that makes any sense. But it's about, the thought behind it, the why, what is the problem that you're trying to solve here. In your head, Matt, it wasn't money, it was more about purpose. Mohneet, for you, it was resurrecting some of those emotional connections. And you've ended up working with entrepreneurs and founders as your kind of
surprise.
Niche client segment. Do you think that played a part? Because I'm thinking here, if we've got advisors that are listening in and they're thinking about, where do they sit? What is their client type? It feels like yours came together quite naturally. Would you say that's the case?
But yeah, part of it. It was also, you can talk about your, Matt has a lot of friends who are entrepreneurs, which probably was a big deciding factor for you. For me, it was also, we wanted to work with people that we really want to sort of, listen to their stories. And honestly, we've been so lucky that the clients that we have had so far, genuinely, pretty much all of them, like their stories are just so fascinating. We met someone last week about, they were telling us how they started the company, how they sold it, the family involvement and, the people that are working there. All those stories are just so fascinating. And it really sort of fills you up with this positive energy that just makes you do your job better, if I'm being very simple and honest.
Well, that was the thinking. I guess the starting question. So I guess for us, the North Star was, how do we deliver the very best possible outcomes to our clients? That was kind of where we started. That was literally a question on a whiteboard at one point. It was like, right, what are we doing? Well, we want to deliver the very best possible outcomes. That is a non-negotiable. We're not optimizing for revenue. We're not optimizing for scale. We're not optimizing for margin. We're optimizing for client outcome. That's how we speak in and together. That's what the business is about.
Yeah.
So how do we do that? So we work back from that, but deciding to work with a specific client type is all about, like, we're just going to immerse ourselves in your world. All we do is think about entrepreneurs. And we think about your journey, and we think about the different phases of your journey and where you will need us and how you will need us at different phases. And we will build a network similar to the network that you're building of people who help you through different stages. So we understand how they're helping you. So we just think and speak the same language as you. And it helps us to understand what you're going through and the role that we can play at different times. And I think it does make your advice a bit sharper. So, if you just decided to focus on football players, all you would think about is football players and their agents and their lifestyle and their spending. And you would just come to learn the fabric of how the behavior, because it's all about behavior, isn't it? Like, how are you going to behave? And you see patterns as well. And that's the key for us, is seeing those patterns. And we're now 10 months in and we've worked with enough, and we knew the patterns before, because like Mohneet said, I had lots of friends who had started and built businesses, and some had exited, and they would talk to me really openly about the business and money because I was in financial services. So I think they just saw me as like their free financial advisor. It's like,
well, we don't have to pay. Now you have to pay.
Exactly. And so the patterns are really important because with an entrepreneur, the journey that they go on is similar. The story is unique to each entrepreneur, but the pitfalls and some of the common sort of, banana skins that they might slip up on are quite common at different parts of the journey. Yeah. So for us, the starting point was, we want to be, we want to deliver. It's not about us, it's about the client. We want to deliver the very best outcome to the client. So how do we do that? And so deciding just to focus on one particular client type, I think, we'll know in the fullness of time whether it's a good idea or not. So far, it feels like a good thing, because we spend a lot of our time talking to other people who are working with founders. So it might be fractional CFOs who the founder will bring into the business at a certain part of the journey to help them. And speaking to other people in that ecosystem, like a couple of weeks ago, we were in Manchester at the Business Growth Fund doing a presentation to a room of founders, but just being in those environments constantly, I think has been definitely a benefit.
Yeah. I mean, we also hosted a roundtable of people that work with founders. So M&A lawyers.
Yeah.
We worked with, who else was there? PR experts. So basically people that founders would go to if they were potentially looking to exit, or even if they're looking for, some big change in the business, for example. And it just really helps being surrounded by those people, because you can understand the full picture of the founder that you're actually working with.
Yep.
So yeah, that really helps as well.
Yeah.
Can we spend a few minutes talking about war wounds then? You're 10 months in. It all sounds very idyllic at this stage. Loving families, lots of nice savings. Got the idea, the concept. What worked, what didn't? What have you learned so far?
We've been, it's a really good question. I think one thing I would say, what has worked well as a team is that we do communicate a lot. And I would like to think we're quite transparent with each other, which is helpful.
Yeah.
Keep each other in check. Yeah. I'm going to say something very different in a second.
Go on, let's hear it.
No, we keep each other in check, which is good.
Yeah.
We've been working on basically all the clients we have together, which is great at this stage, because that means we both know every client really well, which has worked really well. There's a lot of things that have worked well, but I'll touch on what hasn't worked well, because that's what always interests people. I think the one thing we need to figure out is obviously our office space. We've been working from home a lot, and we use co-working office spaces, which have worked well so far. But I think we're starting to get to the point where we need a stable home that we want to go into. We're both quite eager to sort of be in an office, talk to each other, be able to see people on, a more frequent basis. So that's one thing that, we're sort of hoping to change later this year, next year. What else?
I think in terms of things that haven't quite worked, there was definitely some money spent on marketing early on that we probably could have not spent.
Yeah.
You think?
Yeah, well, it was, we have invested money in marketing. Some of it worked. Some of it I look back and think, we made a mistake with that. But I mean, like next year, so for calendar year 2, we'll be heavily investing in marketing. So we definitely believe, like in terms of capital spend, there's going to be a lot going marketing and client acquisition. So we're full throttle with that. And our thinking has been that from day one, which is let's get really well known, because I think we've got a really good story to tell. We do an amazing job for clients. So let's tell everyone. So there was definitely money to spend on marketing, but just I think a few of the decisions we made there, I think I look back and think, we probably didn't deploy that as best as we could. I think really it'd be interesting to hear your take on this, but definitely year 1 or in the run up to it, I think in terms of home life, there's definitely sacrifices that you make there. Yeah. So that's where the real, I think that's really where the in terms of like the war wounds, you go into it and because you're working a lot, and when you're not working, you're still working because you're thinking about it.
When you're on holiday, you're still working.
Yeah, and your mind is constantly there, and the kids will say to you, "Are you listening to me?" when they're talking to you.
He's describing my life. I'm sorry, it doesn't get any. It doesn't even get worse.
So we were having dinner last night, and the kids were ribbing me. Yeah. We were all, they were saying, sometimes we speak to you and you're just not listening. And I say, yes, because I'm thinking about how I can make your life better. That's what I'm thinking about.
It's all related to, my 6-year-old told me last night that you're not supposed to work on Saturday. Why are you working on Saturday? You're working all the time. And I just thought to myself, oh my God, this is terrible. A 6-year-old is throwing that at me.
Yeah, but they tune in, they know.
And they know.
So I think the difficulty...
Even though your children don't get the Maldives, Matt, so you might need to...
No, I know.
She's got teenage girls, so he probably gets more of the emotional battering, I'd say, than I do.
I definitely do. But I think you're definitely like managing your energy levels. I think that's probably the most difficult part is just trying to manage your energy levels because, it's sort of like full throttle. And then when you're trying to sort of rest and recuperate, you're not really, because you just got to be really disciplined, I think, with like sleep and food and exercise and stuff like that, and try and keep it balanced. But I think that's probably where
I'm not that disciplined. I take my laptop everywhere. But you do have to be. I think you have to look after yourself in order to sort of, this probably in the early days as well, but you kind of have to look after yourself in order to operate at that 100% energy level, because you definitely need it. There's always like 1,000 ideas in your head that you want to do and implement. But there's only so much time and so much energy that you can deploy.
Yeah, I can relate with that. When you figure out the balance piece between sleep, family, food, please let me know. Send me that memo. The bit I am interested in is that client acquisition piece.
Yeah.
Because you guys are unique in the sense that, yes, you have a network of friends, of family members, of people in your professional orbit. You're not coming from the traditional financial advice background where you could take, 20 best clients with you on this journey.
Yeah.
You've had to practically farmed everything from scratch. So talk me through the first client.
Client number one.
Client number one.
Well, everyone has a client number one, and it's such a special thing. So client number one was actually a friend who had just exited his business.
Right.
And he went to Coots, and Coots did a pitch to him because he banked with Coots, and actually got called in. And was like, oh, you have all this money now. So he went to Coots, and he also spoke to us. And I mean, he's a really impressive, really impressive individual, what he did with his business and MBE, and he was an award-winning author and all this stuff. So yeah, he was a friend, but look, you've got to impress. So it wasn't just a tap on the shoulder. Hey, do you want to be my financial advisor? But he was naturally very curious. Because the trust is, if somebody knows you trust you, you're 2-0 up. That's a key step forward for anyone in this type of work. And so, we sat down and we actually did a presentation to him, and we talked to him about what we do, how we do it, and how we're a bit different and how we're structured. And he really liked it. So that was client number one. And we did full financial planning, and we oversee all of his family assets. In terms of the next few, they were all a bit different. So they came in different ways. So I think there's kind of like 3 phases for us. The first phase was kind of like that, which is your if you think about your social circle and your professional circle, there's a lot of people there who know you and trust you, especially your professional circle, because they've seen you operate in a professional capacity. And I think that's a big thing. They've seen you, how you work with clients. Do you care? How high are your standards? What is your attention to detail really like? Obviously, your friends know you, love you, trust you, but they see you in a different way.
Right.
Your professional colleagues, they've seen you operate. And they may have seen you operate to a very high level, and they would advocate. Because what you're looking for is advocacy. Because there are different types of introductions. One is, I'll just speak to my friend Matt. The other one is, you have to speak to him. He has to be your person. So we've had different types of introductions, but you just have to work all the time to get the name out there, to try and get these introductions. And that's what business development is. It is an all the time thing. It's not a once a day thing, or I do it in the afternoon. You have to be doing it all the time, without being too pushy or too over the top. So early on, introductions came from our professional and social network. What started to happen recently is, so we've been creating videos and other bits that we post on LinkedIn and we put out on YouTube, and we've been pushing those, and people are just coming to us kind of more organically now. So in the more normal process. So we had a couple come to us recently who just found us online.
Yeah.
And we went into kind of like a tender process alongside 3 other advisors.
Some very big advice firms, actually.
Yeah, so they were a couple based in Bristol.
Yeah.
And we just got a message out of the blue. We had a couple of calls with them. They were very open and honest, said, look, we're talking to some other advisors. We're talking to an advisor in Bristol. And we got down to the last 2 alongside the other advisor in Bristol, which were 3 billion AUM advisor, chartered, really well known, really
Big
well,
team,
really
big
well
office,
respected,
yeah.
and really great at financial advice.
Now we're all racking our heads.
And so we were in this process, which is a much more kind of like normal, in inverted commas, process of client acquisition. And they came with us. So we're starting to see that now. So we've been through these different kind of phases of how do we find clients and how do they come to us. Sometimes we're 2-0 up because it's a real strong introduction. Sometimes it's just an even playing field like the one I described where you're fighting for it all the way through the process. But early on, you just draw those concentric circles.
Yeah.
Who's in that inner circle?
And for me, like my background is more investment. And Matt obviously has so much more experience on the business development side. And I think what was really interesting to me over the last year is how the importance of if you don't ask, you don't get. And there are so many people that I spoke to that I already knew within the professional and personal network. When I asked them for something or a warm introduction to someone that I knew could be a potential client through them, actually it was it wasn't as difficult as I thought it would be, because you initial as humans, I think you always expect a no first before a yes comes. But actually just being out there, speaking to people, connecting with people in our networks, outside our networks, through other people has been a complete game changer in terms of bringing more clients in. And our YouTube channel is definitely helping now.
Yeah.
We are sort of lucky enough that some of the videos have hit like 50, 60,000 views, which is amazing.
It's incredible.
Which we didn't really we had expectations, but I guess you sort of try to remain humble with it. But actually it's starting to resonate, which is great, which is how we're starting to see these new clients coming in a more sort of, through the search in a more level playing field, if you will.
It's fascinating. I'm interested. I know your niche focus is on the entrepreneurial side of things, but did you get people from asset management,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did.
Tell me about that. Any funny, interesting dimension there?
No, I mean, it was actually flattering more than anything else. A lot of them are people that we knew.
Right.
There's someone who works at a hedge fund. There's in investment.
Right.
So there's people who work at active fund houses, PMs. So it's, again, these are people who are obviously very, very good at what they do.
And presumably they load their portfolio. They're happy for you to load their portfolios with active funds and hedge funds, or is that different?
No, exactly. I think they're actually quite open. They've sort of let us take the lead, which is amazing.
Right.
But it's just been, it wasn't something we were actively going after, but it's been really nice to see. Obviously our core base is still founders and entrepreneurs, but we've definitely had quite a few investment professionals, execs come through, which has been really nice. Actually.
Yeah, it's great. It's great to work with them, and
and I think, Matt, we had a conversation about this, didn't we? And it's about helping all of your clients take their lenses off for a second and just then see the entire landscape.
Yeah. Do you know, it's so fascinating working with them because the two I'm thinking of in particular who are really senior PMs.
Yeah, amazing at what they do.
Yeah, and they're both on the active side, a big tier one asset manager. They're both very different in terms of so we work with them both separately. But one of them said to us, look, I have a lot of biases, investment biases. And look, left to my own devices, I'm just going to pick value stocks. And I really want to work with a financial advisor. He'd worked with a wealth manager, actually, but one of the well-known wealth managers, and was not particularly pleased with how things had gone. And then we started talking to him. And look, we said, look, this is what we believe. And this is what we think will get you results over time. because he came to us, he's saying, I'd quite like this and I'd quite like that. And we're saying, look, we're not going to do that. So this could be quite a quick no for you, but look, this is what we do. This is why we think it works. And that's what we do. And he went away, then he came back. He said, look, okay, that sounds really great. Let's do it. So that was a really interesting one. The other PM actually was a bit different. He really wanted a financial plan. He said, look, I don't have a plan. I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm about 10 years away from retirement. I just want to know that I just have a well thought out plan. And he said to us, look, I'm a really inefficient investor because I just have all this, I get my bonuses and often it just sits in cash and I'm not putting it into where it should be because I just don't feel I have a plan. So I'm just kind of ignoring it and it stays in cash for too long and it's just all a bit of a mess. So we said, look, great, this is exactly what we do. We'll go away. We'll come back with a plan and an investment strategy within that. And again, he was an active PM and we presented back to him and it's predominantly market cap, sort of buy and hold, simple, straightforward things. He said, great, I love it. Let's do it. So it's a real
biases. Yeah, sorry. I was just going to say, I think the biases are a huge part of it. I think a lot of financial professionals realize that they have biases. Sometimes it takes a while to get there, but once they realize, I think it's really important to go outside of your comfort zone and ask someone else to actually help because you want to be able to work with someone who you trust enough to push you back on your biases as well, which is, I think,
my polite lens comment.
yeah, exactly.
On the phone.
I'm interested in now. So 10 months in, you've not completed the full year yet. On the revenues, we know what the cost side of the equation is, right? You end up spending more than you intended to spend. You can tell me otherwise. On the revenue side of the equation, where does that sit compared to your expectation? And I want that to lead into the conversation about fees. How do you approach fees? Do you charge an initial fee? Is it flat? Is it based on anything? And then how does that work in terms of ongoing fees as well?
Yeah, definitely. Revenue, I think we were very cautious with our revenue forecast. We were definitely too cautious.
Yeah, for sure.
And so our revenue year one will be a lot more than we expected it to be. But I think we wanted to come into it with quite a cautious outlook because you are leaving something that was, you're a big asset manager, you love what you do and the compensation is commensurate with the role that you're doing. And so having this big aggressive forecast and then undershooting and having feelings of regret and remorse and all this sort of stuff, we just didn't want that. So we had quite a cautious one. So where we'll land and in our first year is great because we probably did overfund the business a bit. We haven't spent as much in year one as probably
we've actually been pretty controlled on costs.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, it's been very disciplined.
Yeah.
If anything, we have mentors and people we know and trust who run businesses who have said, look, guys, you've got to now be really aggressively investing in the business. So year one, we did maybe tiptoe around a bit in terms of like that cash discipline, but that's fine because client acquisition has been really strong. Client advocacy is really high, which is the most important thing. So the feedback that we're getting from the clients who have been all the way through the process, who now know us, and that's been great. So that's been really good. And I think like looking back at year one, it will be, look, client acquisition went well, client feedback is really good, the process works, the network behind us really works. You could have invested more in the business. Cash flow itself in terms of revenue was really good. So now in a position in going into year two is really now where do we invest the money?
Because our revenue this year was initially our target for year 3 or 4.
Yeah, I think year 3.
Year 3. So
year 2 will be about just getting more well known. It will be about, I think for us, it's 3 things. One is how do we get more well known? How do we build proper partnerships?
Yeah.
And how do we turn all clients into real advocates?
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to, I think we're going to bring in like a fractional chief marketing officer or something like that who can really help with the how do we get well known. Mm. We'll be working on the partnerships. So there's some nice seeds there already. Mm. So we really want to push on that. So partnerships with might be accountants or
well,
brokers.
on the M&A side, accountants.
So there's some interesting stuff there already, but we need to make that really happen in year 2 and 3. And then we need to create lots of wow moments for clients. They're really happy with, because what they buy is us, we're the product. So they're happy with and together and how it works. And the feedback that we've got is it's attentive and you listen and so the feedback that we're getting is good. I don't think we need to make major tweaks to that, but we just want to create lots of wow moments for them so that we just turn clients into real advocates. So I think that will really help as well. But in terms of your question on fees, Alf, I mean, we deliberated on this for so long. We wanted to do something that was really fair because we did want to optimize for client outcome. That's really key for us. And the reason we wanted to do that, it was really about the experience at Vanguard. So that business is optimized for client outcome. It's not necessarily optimized for revenue and margin. It's optimized for how do we deliver the best outcome for the client. So studying that business from the inside for 15 years was so interesting because when I joined, it was a 1 trillion AUM asset manager. When I left, it was 12 trillion AUM. So I'd seen that throughout that time, that North Star didn't change. The focus was 100% on how do we deliver the very best outcome. At the same time, what was happening is crew engagement, staff engagement was incredibly high. It managed to attract amazing talent into the business and the business did really well. So I'm a really passionate believer and we're really passionate believers. You can optimize for client outcome and everyone wins. You don't have to be vertically integrated. We make margin at every part and we're optimizing for bottom line value. So for us, that's really key. So when it came to fees specifically, I thought, look, we could charge. I think we could probably charge more. No one has really said like,
this is too high.
Yeah, I think we could probably, we could charge a bit more, I think. But I think the fairest thing to do in delivering the best outcome for the client over the long term, we don't want them to be disappointed. I want to be sat in front of them in 5 years and the results are really working for them and their families. And I do think fees are quite an important part of that. So we charge 0.7 ongoing, but we tier it down 0.6, 0.5, 0.4, 0.3, depending on how much you have.
Why?
Because I think like one thing you could do is charge a fixed fee, and that probably is the fairest thing to do. But I don't think people like paying standing orders.
No.
And we don't want people to disengage in year 2 because they think, I'm paying you X a month and I could buy a new fridge or, because then the worst thing has happened that they've disengaged and that's the worst thing for them. Yeah. So it's all about how do you get as many people into financial planning and to stick with it as possible, because that is going to get you the best results. Don't do it on your own. Come and do it with an advisor, but stick with it over the years.
Yeah, but at 0.7, you will get all-in costs to around 1%.
Exactly, yeah.
Exactly.
And then you tear it down. I don't know where the break points are, after $1 million or a few million, something like that. No, so it seems a reasonable approach.
It's a very competitive level of fees, I would say. I also think it's sort of from a human perspective, people like loyalty to be rewarded as well. So obviously as client are staying with us longer, their assets are growing, it just feels like the right thing to do. Right. And that's another thing that when we were at Vanguard, you saw, what the client reaction is every time there was, the fees went down a little bit. And it has much more of an impact than people realize over time.
Well, thank you for joining us. And can we invite you back in 12 months' time?
Yes, I would love to.
Year one's gone. Let's track to see, let's talk about more war wounds in 12 months' time, 2 years in. But we'd be delighted to have you back.
We'd love that. We'd love that. Thank you for having us,
and being
guys.
so honest with us.
No, this was amazing. Thank you for having us.
Wonderful. Thanks.
That's a wrap on today's show. Massive thanks to my production crew, especially Jake Osha, Melissa Canham, and the entire team. And of course, to our sponsor, Timeline, the market-leading provider of integrated planning technology and model portfolio service to advisors. I do hope you've enjoyed today's show. Head over to Apple Podcast and give us your review there. Until next time, goodbye.